Steel driver. All right, so what are you guys looking at here first? So we have a map of the U.S. with different routes across it. Now, some of these we've already laid out for kind of an end game example. So ignore. Normally, it would be blank at the beginning of the game. There are two different types of cities out here. There are hexagonal cities as well as circular cities. The hexagonal are where routes can start from or where companies can start their first track lay. The round cities are, well, connection cities where routes can be connected to. Other than that, starting cities potentially, otherwise the cities are identical, other than obviously you can tell that there are 5 different colors of cities. There are red, there are silver, there are black, there are white, and there are orange cities across the various parts of the map. Then in between the cities, there are connection spots that value from 2 to, I believe, 5 is the highest. So some require 2 investment cubes to be able to build. Some require as high as 5. I don't think there's any 6s to the best of my recollection. Then there is the income track down here on the bottom corner that represent each of these 6 companies. The 6 companies each have a controlling marker or the locomotive of each, and then each one also has 5 shares or 5 discs. Those also kind of double as the round tracker since the game does take place over 5 rounds. Now that you can kind of see off the top of the board, we have the various tracks that are in the various colors where we're going to be able to lay those out. Then off board over here, everybody, because it is a 5-player game, starts with 7 investment cubes, these white cubes. There will be more that come into play later. Then the other cubes only are used for end game, for the valuation aspect of the game. Then over in this corner, we have the current order of play or the current operation order of the 6 different companies. And then as they pass, we will be moving their markers down here to the bottom as the order of operation, the order of the company operation changes. And then as we go along, in theory, Jess is going to move this along to track it, but it's probably going to sit here for the remainder of the game. Then there is a little active player marker that's going to be passed around from the different players as play goes on. That's it. That's all the components in Steel Driver. So the goal of the game is to have the most lucrative portfolio at the end of the game. That means cash on hand as well as shares, the most lucrative shares. So whoever has the most value total at the end of the game will win. Now we are using poker chips. So just FYI, now poker chips represent money in this game. However, it is strictly end-game points. So at the end of each round, when we are accumulating money here, we're going to get chips, and then that's it. You never spend it. It never goes down. It's simply victory points that we're going to be acquiring. The game comes with paper money, but yeah. All right. So how do you play Steel Driver? Well, the game goes through 5 rounds, and each round has a total of 5 different phases in it. So let's go through those real quick. The first thing is, at the beginning of each round, everybody is going to take 7 additional income cubes. It doesn't matter. If you have any left over, they do carry forward to the next round. So if I only spent 4 this round and I had 3 left over, at the beginning of the next round, I will then have 10 investment cubes, hence why we have more out here. So everybody gets 7 to begin with, and that's based on player count. It could be as high as 10 if you're playing with 3 player. I recommend trying this game at 4 or 5 players for what it's worth. That said, after everyone has gotten their 7 investment cubes, we're then going to auction the company control markers. That is the locomotives of the 6 companies. Whoever is the first player has the active player marker. They have 2 options on their turn. They can either put one of the 6 companies, their choice of which to put up for auction, to bid for control for that round, or pass. If you pass, you move that and take no further action. This round will end when all 6 companies have been auctioned off and are controlled by the players, or it's possible that some of the 6 do not get auctioned off. The way that would happen is, like I just did, I choose not to put a company up for auction, then Jess chooses, then Andrew, then Trey, then Christopher, in successive order. If that happens, then whatever companies are not auctioned off do not get auctioned off. The auction works very simply. everybody has 7 investment cubes. As of the second round, they may have differing numbers. That is your liquidity, or the value in which you can bid. So if on my turn I say, hey, it's yellow, I'll put yellow up for auction to begin with. I start the bid. The minimum bid is 1 investment cube up to a maximum of whatever I have in front of me, which obviously is 7. So if I bid, say, 2, Jess either ups the bid or passes. Then it goes to Andrew, then Trey, then Christopher. Keep going around and around, up the bid or pass, just like a normal traditional auction. When all but one player has passed, let's say the winning bid, let's say, you know what? Let's say Jess won the bid with, let's say 5. She then would put 5 investment cubes up there. She would take 1 share of that company, and she would take control marker of that company to say, hey, all the actions by that company, i.e. lane track for that company, are going to be dictated by Chris. By Jess. I looked at Chris and I don't know. Work with me. Beard, no beard. Well.
Clearly, we look alike. It's great.
Clearly. Anyway, so then after that has happened, even if I didn't win, or I did win, it does not matter, this still passes. Then Jess has the option to start the auction of another company. She has 2 investment cubes left. That's okay. She could maybe somehow win a company. So she puts 1 up for auction, or she passes, and that continues on again until all of us have successfully passed in successive order, or all 6 companies have been auctioned off and we all have control markers. It is possible for one player to control multiple companies in a given round, depending on how many cubes they have and how adept they are at the auction process. Easy enough? Mm-hmm. All right, once we have done all of that and all the companies are auctioned off, or we've all passed, we then build track. The current order in track building will be, as you see here, that for the start of the game, it is in that order, which somebody can tell me, is that in rainbow order?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it?
That's in rainbow order.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. I'm happy for all the CDO people out there. That's in rainbow order. After the first round, that probably won't be the case. But building track happens very simply. Starting with the first company, each company must build track if they are able to, even if it's not the track in which they wish to build. So the first track at the beginning of a game must connect to one of the hex cities. So here, what?
Nothing?
All right. So the hex city here. So there are multiple hexagonal cities. There's San Francisco, there's Jacksonville, Charleston, Richmond, Baltimore, New York, Boston, Detroit. There are a couple others probably. The key is the first piece of track that you build for a company must attach to one of those. So let's say, for argument's sake, none of these blue ones are out here. It's the beginning of the game. And for whatever reason, I ended up with control of blue, which means I would have gotten a share of blue. And let's say blue had a total of 6 cubes in it. For the first track lay, I can lay, say right there, the cost in investment cubes is going to be 2. So 2 of those will get spent from there, put back into the supply. We lay that track. Then, even though it's got hexes on both sides, I get to choose, even if it didn't. If I chose something like this, obviously that would have cost 3 cubes. 50 or 40, how much income do I want? I'd like the higher number, please. So as it was, there, I would move the income marker to $60. Easy enough. That is building one track for each company. Then we go back to the beginning and we do it again if possible. So everybody then maybe builds a second track. So you'll notice there are 4 cubes left for blue. So I have a few options. All track must be contiguous. It must branch out and attach. I can't then bring blue out to here. It must branch off of there. So at that point, you probably can guess it is possible for a company to get blocked off. This will likely happen at some point, so be careful, be aware of that. So as a second track lay, I then say, you know what, I want to go ahead, better yet, we're going to come up to Beantown. So we'll go ahead there. I'm not local, so I can call it that. There we go. So 2 investment cubes then. I do not get this one. Not because I already took it, but because you only get the income of the new connected city.
So doesn't that apply here still? Because if you build from here, you have to start there.
Fair point. So in this case, that would have been 60 here. If I had built like so, if I built like this, the 50 would have been the first, but I still can branch out from any direction, okay? So there, so my income then would add 50 to that, so 60 goes up to 110. And we continue going. So let's say red no longer has any cubes when it comes, or maybe they have, say, 1 cube left over after they've built, but they can't build with 1 cube, they then pass. Yellow maybe has some cubes left, they build. Green builds. Blue has 2 cubes. Well, I don't want to build. Well, if you look at this, the only places that blue can build, because you cannot double up on any other track, could build to Pittsburgh, requires 3, could build up to Buffalo, requires 3, ergo, blue is not building, so it's going to retain those 2, and then blue is going to pass. And we will continue doing this in order as companies pass. Maybe it goes something along the lines like this, and that will be the new order for the next round. All right, remember, you must build track if you can. That said, after that, we then take profits. The controller of the company is the only person that will then take profits from that company. So, as the controller of blue, I built out $110 worth of track. I will then get $110 from the bank. There, that's my income for there. Then we're going to reset all of the markers that will be out here. In theory, it'll be probably all 6 as players get their income. It does not matter. Even if, say, Shrey had 2 shares of blue, he does not get the money for that income for that round. He will get paid out for that at the end of the game. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Then, after that, it's the end of the round. So at this point, all of the markers then reset. All of these will then move back up. And then we will continue doing this round and round and round for 5 rounds. There is one small little thing that I would like to point out, and that is the Transcontinental Railroad. So when, let's say, it's yellow's turn, and they're building track, and they choose to build that, which in this case would be the Golden Spike. When there is a transcontinental route from San Francisco, notice it's in black, to New York, again, notice it's in black. Once the first connection is made that is a contiguous between one company or multiple companies, the game pauses for a minute. The company that laid that Golden Spike, that final piece of track, immediately bumps their income $50 regardless. So the controller of that company is going to get a $50 bonus. Then we look at the shortest route to get to New York, and it should be, there you go. Give me one more black one for this example. There we go. So you'll notice, coming from San Francisco, we could go up north, come down around, no, straightest route, shortest route. So it would be coming through, and actually would include purple right there. So yellow would have gotten their 50, purple coming over to green, to black, to blue. In that case, all of those companies that I just mentioned, other than yellow, because they got the $50 Golden Spike bonus, every other company will get a $30 bonus added on that was included in that route, regardless of how many pieces of track were included. That clear? Mm-hmm. All right, that's the whole game through 5 rounds. Then at the end of the 5th round, what's going to happen is the game is going to kind of change a bit. Here's what's going to happen. Every connected city out here that has at least one company connected to it, we're going to put down cubes of the matching color, like so. That's good enough just to give a couple of examples. This is one of those that you're going to have to see in execution for this to make sense. Excuse me. And I just want to throw a couple others. The reason this matters is because the value of a company is going to be determined by the set collection little mini game that's going to happen now at the end of the game. Whoever has the most shares of a company is going to then control the company during this phase of the game. So for instance, if I had 2 shares of blue and everybody else had 1, ergo, I have more shares, I control blue during this phase. But let's say, for whatever reason, that Christopher had 1 share of green. He controlled it at the end of the game in the 5th round, okay? I had a share of green, and Jess also had a share of green. In this case, there are 3 people tied for that. Whoever had control of the company in the 5th round then would get it. If Chris did not have, let's say it were more like this. Say it were like that. Christopher had control of it in the 5th round, but Jess has more shares of it at the end of the game. So therefore, for this final phase of the game, Jess will control green as well, okay? If both Jess and I had the same amount at that point and Christopher controlled it at the end of the game, it will go to the player closest clockwise to the player that controlled it at the end of the 5th round. Does that make sense? Is that clear?
Yes.
All right. The reason this matters, now obviously every company will be controlled by some player, but just to shorten this so it doesn't take forever. In operating order of what it was in the order in which they passed at the end of the game. So starting with red, they would choose to take any one cube that their company has access to. So we're not going to worry about red. We're blue then goes next. Well, you'll notice that blue and green both have access to this red, and there are only 3 red cubes available. So to be able to get a complete set of all 5 cubes, you got to have red. Well, blue will choose to go ahead and claim that one. So that would be blue. Then green goes, and green has access now to this silver, this white, that white. There will be more out here as the game goes along, obviously, but just for an example. But it looks at it and says, you know what? Black also has control of that, access to that one, so green chooses that silver cube. Then we go purple, then black says, you know what? Everybody has access to this white. It's the only white one that I have access to, so I'm going to go ahead and take this white one for black. Yellow goes. Then we continue until all the cubes have been taken. At the end of that phase, we then look at how many different colors are in a set. A complete set of all 5 cubes, it's worth $150 a share for that company's shares. 4 cube set is worth 100. A 3 cube set is worth 60. A 2 cube set is worth 30. And a 1 cube set is worth 10. Now, if you get multiple of the same color, so let's say, and we'll do this over here for black, let's say black ended up with this, for instance. It has a 3 cube set and a 1 cube set. A 3 cube set is worth 60, so black would get 60 for the 3 cube set, and then another 10 for a single 1 cube set, because it's the same color that it already has, for a total of $70. So each disc or each share of black will be worth $70. We'll tally it up at the end of the game. Whoever has the most cash on hand and value in their shares wins the game. And that is Steel Driver. Any questions?
No.
Nope.
All right, cool. Let's clear the board, reset it, and we'll get going.
The only question in chat was, what if there's a tie for shortest transcontinental route?
Then they both share and get the bonus for $30.
So is it the shortest first, or is it the number of companies first?
That's a good question. You may be right for the Transcontinental. Let me double check. Minimum number of different companies. I misspoke. So the fewest number of companies possible. If one company can make it, regardless of how long it is, it does so. Then it goes shortest 2 company, 3 company, etc. If there's a tie, then everybody gets the $30 bonus.
So even if it is longer?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, so I misspoke.
Somebody also asked if you could pass and then still bid on someone else's.
You can, yeah, absolutely, you can, yes. And let me get my 7 cubes back.
Same, can I have 5?
No.
Sorry, put those away.
Okay, there you go.